The House will be in order. With the consent of the House, the minutes of the preceding day will stand approved. Hearing no objections, so ordered. Third order of business, message from the Senate. The clerk will read.
Madam Speaker, the Senate has adopted Senate Concurrent Resolution 8400. Sarah Bannister, Secretary.
Message received.
One more.
Further messages.
Madam Speaker, the Senate has adopted House Concurrent Resolution 4400.
Last line.
Sarah Bannister, Secretary.
Message received. Fourth order of business. With the consent of the House, the bills, memorials, and resolutions printed on today's introduction sheet will be considered first reading under the fourth order of business and will be referred to the committees so designated, except House Bill 1194 is referred to post-secondary education and workforce, and the rules will be suspended, and Senate Concurrent Resolution 8400, the state of the judiciary, and Senate Concurrent Resolution 8401 cutoff dates are placed on the second reading calendar. Hearing no objections, so ordered. For members' information, after the senators leave the governor's State of the State address, the House will take up these resolutions, so please remain in the House and in your seats. The Speaker is now signing Concurrent Resolution 4400, the State of the State, and House Concurrent Resolution 4400. Now that you are all calm and quiet, the House will be at ease subject to the call of the Speaker. The House will be in order.
Members can take their seats.
Members, please take your seats. Sergeant at Arms Alexander.
Madam Speaker, the Senate has arrived to request to enter the chambers for joint session.
The Sergeant at Arms of the House and the Sergeant at Arms of the Senate will escort President of the Senate, Denny Heck, Senator Kaiser, Senator Warnick, and Senator Nobles to the rostrum. The senators are invited to sit within the chamber. Will members please take their seats? It is now my pleasure to call upon President of the Senate, Denny Heck, to preside over this joint session.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Always an honor. The joint session will be in order. The clerk will call the roll of the members of the House.
Albarno, Alvarado, Barkas, Bernard, Bateman, Berg, Bergquist, Berry, Bernowski, Caldeer, Callan, Chambers, Chandler, Chapman, Cheney, Chop, Christian, Connors, Corey, Cortez, Couture, Davis, Dent, Dolio, Donaghy, Dewar, Dye, Entenmann, Eslick, Farvar, Fye, Fitzgibbon, Fossey, Gaynor, Goodman, Graham, Gregerson, Griffey, Hackney, Hanson, Harris, Hutchins, Jacobson, Clicker, Kloba, Kretz, Levitt, Lekanoff, Lowe, Macri, Maycumber, McClintock, McIntyre, Mena, Morgan, Mossbrucker, Orcutt, Ormsby, Ortiz-Self, Orwall, Paul, Peterson, Paulette, Rammel, Ramos, Reed, Reeves, Riccelli, Robertson, Rude, Rule, Ryu, Sandlin, Santos, Schmick, Schmidt, Sen, Shavers, Simmons, Slatter, Springer, Stearns, Steele, Stokesbury, Stonier, Street, Taylor, Ty, Theringer, Timmons, Voles, Wallen, Walsh, Waters, Wilcox, Wiley, Ibarra. Madam Speaker.
The clerk will call the roll of the members of the Senate.
Billig, Banky, Braun, Cleveland, Conway, Dingra, Dozier, Fortunato, Frame, Gildon, Hasagawa, Hawkins, Holy, Hunt, Kaufman, Kaiser, King, Kuderer, Leas, Lovelit, Lovick, McEwen, McCune, Mullet, Mozal, Gwynn, Nobles, Haddon, Peterson, Randall, Rivers, Robinson, Rolfus, Saldana, Solomon, Schessler, Shoemake, Short, Stanford, Torres, Trudeau, Valdez, Vandeweghe, Wagoner, Warnick, Wellman, Wilson Clare, Wilson Jeff, Wilson Linda. Mr. President, a quorum is present.
This joint session has been convened to receive the State of State message from His Excellency Governor Jay Inslee. But may the President offer an observation. After 3 years, what a glorious sight you all are gathered together. The President appoints the following representatives and senators to form a special committee to escort the Supreme Court justices to the House chamber. Representatives McClintock, Farivar, Senators Shoemake and McEwen. The President appoints a special committee to escort the statewide elected officials to the House chamber. Representatives Street and Lowe and Senators Kaufman and Hawkins. And the President appoints a special committee to advise His Excellency Governor Jay Inslee that the joint session has assembled and to escort him from his chambers to the House chambers. Representatives Stearns, Hutchins, and Senators Hasegawa and Fortunato. Would you confirm that, please, Chris? Thank you very much. Sergeant-at-Arms Alexander. Will the committee please escort the justices to the front of the chamber? Of the Supreme Court who are present today, beginning with, of course, Chief Justice Stephen Gonzalez, Associate Chief Justice Charles Johnson, Justice Barbara Madison, Justice Susan Owens, Justice Deborah Stevens, Justice Cheryl Gordon McLeod, Justice Mary Yu, Justice Raquel Montoya Lewis. No white man? Sergeant-at-Arms Alexander.
Mr. President, the state elected officials have arrived.
Will the committee please escort the statewide elected officials to the front of the chamber? It is my distinct pleasure to greet our distinguished statewide elected officials. Secretary of State Steve Hobbs, State Treasurer Mike Pelliciotti, State Auditor Pat McCarthy, Attorney General Bob Ferguson, Superintendent of Public Instruction Chris Reichdahl, and Commissioner of Public Lands Hillary Franz. It is further my pleasure to welcome the members of the Consular Association of Washington. I'll ask them to individually stand, but for all of you to hold your applause until we come to the end, please. Beginning with Acting Consul General of Canada, Vanessa Podgreney, Honorary Consul of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Floribert Mubalama, Honorary Consul of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Mark Gantar, Honorary Consul of the Federal Republic of Germany, Uli Fischer, Acting Consul of the Republic of Honduras, Yasina Gomez, Honorary Consul of Hungary, Cataline Pierman, Consul General of the Republic of Ireland, Michal Smith, Consul General of the State of Japan, Hisao Inagaki, Honorary Consul of the Kingdom of Norway, Viggo Ford, Honorary Consul of the Republic of Austria, Eva Kammel, Honorary Consul of the Republic of Chile, Andreas Beria Roman, Honorary Consul of the Republic of Finland, Matti Swakku, there's one in every crowd. Honorary Consul of the Republic of Korea, So Unji. Honorary Consul of the Republic of Latvia, Imants Holmquist. Honorary Consul of the Republic of Peru, Miguel Velasquez. Honorary Consul of Romania, Julian Kalinov. Consul General of the Republic of El Salvador, Elizabeth Martinez. Honorary Consul of the Swiss Federation, Philip Godshell. Honorary Consul of the Italian Republic, Elisabetta Valentini. Honorary Consul of Ukraine, Valery Goloborodko. Consul of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, Robin Twyman. Deputy Consul of the United Mexican States, Gerardo Guyas. Director General of TICO, Taipei Economic and Cultural Office, Daniel Chen. Please give them a round of applause. The President would also like to introduce his special and personal guest, someone who sat in this chamber for many years, served in the other chamber for many years, and served with great distinction in the office of Lieutenant Governor for 20 years. Please acknowledge the presence of former Lieutenant Governor Brad Owen. And lastly, the President is given to believe that there are a number of tribal chairs and leaders, as well as local elected officials present in the gallery. If you fall into either of those categories, would you please stand and receive the appreciation of the members of the legislature? Sergeant at Arms Alexander.
His Excellency, Governor J. Inslee has arrived.
Will the committee please escort Governor Inslee to a place on the rostrum? The flags will be escorted to the rostrum by the Washington State Patrol Honor Guard, commanded by Lieutenant Matt Failer and comprised of Trooper Kyle Flagg, Trooper Dean Gallinger, Sergeant James McGuire, and Sergeant William Rutherford. And performing our national anthem will be the Tacoma Refugee Choir, directed by Aaron Gwinna. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Prayer will be offered today by Father Andrei Matlak of the Holy Trinity Ukrainian Orthodox Church of Seattle.
Governor Inslee, esteemed members of the state and the House, those gathered here today, and all citizens of the much blessed state of Washington, would you please join me in a prayer? Let us pray to the Lord. Lord, have mercy. O Almighty, all merciful God, we are gathered here today in your sight and ask for your guidance. Extend your abundant blessing upon all those women and men who work diligently here to serve the needs of the people who placed their trust in them to maintain the good estate of their lives. Lead us in your truth in all we do, the truth that does not divide but unites, does not tear down but builds up. May we be a good stewards of the gifts that you bless us with, our environment, our resources, our people. Protect our country, this state, from famine, earthquake, flood, fire, injustice, and disease. In your compassion, lead us to be guardians of those who are most vulnerable and in need amongst us. And in all things, we may give you greater glory. Father, O Lord, we beseech your loving kindness and blessings upon the people of Ukraine, who suffer greatly as we gather here this day. Grant them the strength and endurance to deal once again with another invasion. Strengthen the people, the nation of Ukraine, so that it will rise like a phoenix from the ashes, as it has been forced to do so many times throughout history. Continue to call forth the supporters of the Ukrainian people, Lord, who have given them courage almost beyond belief. Bless the nations and people of the world who have contributed, especially the United States of America, beyond all expectation, that grant that they might experience the gratitude, love, and appreciation the citizens in Ukraine have for them. In you we trust, and in your name we pray. Amen.
The President is pleased to welcome Washington State Poet Laureate Rena Priest, who has joined us today.
Ait sgwel CEM o helix yn cwnasadla tiacaius sychweltanat synesnat chlumisan. Just a few words in my chlumichasan, my Lummi language, to say how happy I am to join you here today to share this poem, which was written to the theme of a vision for a more equitable 2023. The poem is called These Abundant and Generous Homelands. Warm at home in the long cold days of winter, how and why should it trouble our thoughts, that eternal question of the haves and have-nots? We are not thoughtless or hard of heart. We give what's fair, do our part, and the privileges we claim as our share, those we reserve without reservation, perhaps even unaware of our good fortune. Perhaps, never having troubled deaf heaven with our bootless cries, we walk well-heeled through our blessed lives with ease. Or maybe we stride with shrewd purpose in shoes made for long days of toil on our feet. You have yours and I have mine, and aren't most of us just trying to get by? But still, the hungry, they are always with us. And isn't the worry always that if we pause our labor too long to care too much, that we shall be counted among them? How can equality be anything but a utopian dream for those whose history and legends tell only of statesmen and kings, and whose concerns are less and less over the justness of wars as much as they are for the accumulation of more, more, more? Yet, we live on lands where equality bloomed once before, when indigenous nations lived by beliefs and followed ancient laws that said an orca whale and a cedar tree are sovereign, sentient beings with inviolable rights, just like you and me. Those beliefs are not childlike or primitive. They are the blueprint for a just and fair society, which for Native nations is not a vision, but a memory. That sublime belief in the wisdom and goodness of the giving earth is not so elusive, is not a birthright exclusive to tribes. Yes, it's mine, but it's yours too, if you want it. If you want it, you must tell new stories, true stories on which to build new beliefs, true beliefs in the interconnection and value of all living things. The supremacy of man is only a fiction. This is the secret every river knows, for water rises and falls and in a circle eternally flows, from the cloud to the mountain, through the valley to the sea. Thus is a circle, a balanced, perfect, and natural state of being. And who are we to interrupt it? We do so at our peril. When the forest burns, our eyes burn and our hearts fill with ashes, and when streams are dammed and wanting of salmon, doesn't our blood want of vitality? This is the folly of hierarchy, with man at the top. We reap the fruit of inequity, a harvest of terrible hunger. Now is the hour of our reckoning, a moment of dire lack. Though unrehearsed, we must summon the courage and the will to act to assure our children a better path forward. And when we look back, will we see that in fact we were not recovering from natural disasters, rather we were the great disaster from which nature must recover? With hindsight for eyes, we must sail toward a beautiful vision, an era that is trying but hopeful, demanding but healthy, whole, and equitable. We will be steadfast in our course, carried by the winds of change into a more balanced way of being. For while free will is at the whim of our human nature, nature loves balance, and so our nature is humane. These truths being self-evident, if all are created equal and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are our legacy, then we must each wish that for the other and repair this world we've borrowed from our children. We must recall a time when we did not have the things we think we need, but had the whole living earth for free. As long as the rivers run, as long as the tide flows, and as long as the sun shines, you will have land, fish and game for your frying pans, and timber for your lodges. These were the promises on which this state was founded. These sacred homelands in which the call of eagles resounded resplendent from the tops of towering cedars, where none went hungry when salmon were running in clear, cool waters. These abundant and generous homelands were given in exchange for a promise of a world we could live in, a world that would keep giving to all in common for as long as the rivers run. Haishka.
And now, it is my distinct privilege and honor to present to you the Honorable Jay Inslee, Governor of the State of Washington.
Good to see you. It was kind of fun being up here. You know?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that greeting. Good afternoon on a beautiful day in the state of Washington. It is a beautiful day, and it's been made more beautiful by our guest, Father Andre Matlack, Poet Laureate, Arena Priest, and the Tacoma Refugee Choir. Thank you very much for enlightening us and inspiring us. We appreciate that. And a very warm welcome and congratulations to our 29 newly elected senators and representatives. I'm excited to be in service with you. And as Speaker Jenkins remarked yesterday, our government should be reflective and representative of the people we serve. And this year, we're welcoming the most diverse legislature in our state's history. And I want to give If you allow me, I would like to express my deep appreciation for my family, particularly my grandchildren, who always inspire me to take the long view, and particularly, of course, to Trudy Inslee, who's such a great partner. And I mean great. Mr. President, Madam Speaker, Mr. Chief Justice, distinguished justices of the court, members of the legislature, tribal leaders, state and local officials, and members of the consular corps, particularly the Ukrainian Honorary Consul, Valery Holoborodko. We stand with Ukraine in the state of Washington. My fellow Washingtonians, after 2 years of delivering the State of the State virtually, it really is great to be back together again. And I want to tell you, you all look great. You haven't aged a day in 2 years, so there's good news here. Look, I know we've got big challenges this session. As leaders, we will be called upon these next few months to act with decisiveness, with ambition, with audacity. And the good news is that here in Washington State, ambition and audacity are both embedded in our state's DNA. And as I was giving thought about the challenges we face this session, I realized we aren't facing anything we aren't ready for. I was thinking about my comments today. It was just something that we're ready to do. When you think about the things we've passed in the recent years that are now becoming real, and they need them to become real, people are eager to see bold and inclusive leadership and action. Think about this. 5 years ago, we launched a transformation of our centuries-old behavioral health system. Today, that effort is resulting in dozens of new facilities opening throughout our state that offer more kinds of care in more places for more people. 2 years ago, we funded a new type of rapid acquisition housing. It's speeding up our ability to create supportive housing in a matter of weeks and months instead of years and decades. The climate policies we passed in recent sessions are now going into effect. And not only are these policies driving down polluting emissions, they are also creating thousands of clean energy jobs across our state. 2 years ago, we passed a working families tax credit. It starts next month. This credit will put as much as $1,200 into the hands of more than 400,000 Washington families. And the list goes on. Paid family leave, broadband access, career-connected learning, and the best financial aid program for students in the nation. Here in our state, we invest in our people and we invest in our communities. It's a reason we have been rated the best state in America, the best economy in America, the second best for business, the third best state for workers. We can't be number one in everything, but we sure come close every year. And this is not an accident. It is because of the work we do in these chambers. And because of that work, and because of the work of millions of Washingtonians, I can proudly report to you this: the state of our state is strong. And I am happy if we continue building on the investments and policies we've started, we can continue building a Washington where everyone is housed, where our schools are safe from gun violence and students receive the mental and educational support they need, where the existential crisis of climate change is met by unmatched innovation, where communities are welcoming and safe for all, where all people have a constitutional right to reproductive freedom, and where people struggling with mental health or substance use no longer fall unseen and unheard through the cracks. Building a Washington that fits this vision is entirely within our grasp this session. We can set the bar this high because we know we are able to achieve it. Let's take housing and homelessness as an example. We know states across the country are seeing an increase in homelessness, and Washington, unfortunately, is one of them. Why? Well, we know there are multiple reasons. Though some people face behavioral health challenges or chemical addiction issues, the fundamental underlying challenge is that we do not have enough housing in our state for our people. And it is a difficult irony of having such a strong economy. Well-paid workers flock here for jobs, forcing lower-paid workers to compete for housing. And when there's not enough housing for all, rents and prices skyrocket beyond what we can afford. And until we fix our housing crisis, thousands of people will remain homeless. Today, we're short 81,000 housing units and worsening by the thousands each year. Our population grew nearly 1 million people in the past decade, but housing stock only grew about 315,000 units. We're going to need another 1 million units in the next 17 years. Again, until we fix our housing crisis, thousands of people will remain homeless. And we need a fix that provides a level of speed and scale beyond anything we've done in the past. Now, when it comes to building affordable housing, our Housing Trust Fund has been our primary tool for decades. But unfortunately, we can only adjust that dial a little bit here and there. We have been adjusting it up every biennium since 2013, $30 to $50 million at a time. But it simply isn't enough. And if there was ever a time to go big, it's now. And I understand the frustration of those who wonder why this problem hasn't been solved yet, and I understand the allure of easy answers to homelessness. But we all know there are no easy answers. Simply moving a person experiencing homelessness from one street corner or city to another is not a real solution. Now, what is working are efforts such as the Rapid Acquisition Program that we launched and you launched 2 years ago. That program is allowing us now to create thousands of new supportive housing units at a pace that has never been possible before. And this is a pace we have to sustain and accelerate at scale. Now, I've seen success of these programs in several housing projects that I visited, including a few months ago. I met a young man named John Torrey Mackey. He was at a pallet shelter village in Vancouver called The Outpost. Torrey told me that having a private space all of his own that was secure and access to services was the difference he needed to get effective treatment and get back on his feet. He told me it literally saved his life. I also met a woman named Millicent and her daughter McKenna last year. They lost their home right before COVID and couldn't find another place they could afford. But they found stability at the Willow Crossing in Seattle. I'd like you to meet Millicent and McKenna here. Thanks, Millicent. McKenna, where are you here? I'm looking for you there. Thanks for being here today. Now, their stories and stories like Tori's are not unlike most of the other 25,000 individuals experiencing homelessness in our state. When you're only one paycheck or one car repair away from a missed rent payment, it can feel impossible to find another option in a housing market like ours. So I will say it again, until we fix our housing crisis, thousands of people like these folks are going to remain homeless. This is why I'm proposing a $4 billion referendum that will significantly speed up the construction of thousands of new units that will include shelters, supportive housing, and affordable housing. This will be combined with additional behavioral health support and substance use treatment and employment services and more. Why? Well, it's because we know that substance use treatment and mental health support can work when you combine it with secure, stable housing. So this is not a one-time effort to buy a one-time fix where the money just sort of disappears. This investment will turn into true assets. Once built, will provide a pipeline of affordable housing for tens of thousands of more people every year. And most importantly, a bonding referendum allows us to act now, not bit by bit, over the next 30 years. So this referendum will forward our ability to build importantly, and it offers it at the scale and the speed we need. Now, scale and speed are necessary for market rate development as well. We know that residential zoning restrictions block developers from building denser and more affordable options. And we simply have to finish the job we started last session to address middle housing and increase housing density within our communities. There is a way to do this that respects the unique character of our towns and cities, while also responding to the reality that, look, we are a growing, changing state. Again, until we fix our housing crisis, thousands of people will remain homeless. I believe the people of the state of Washington are with us on this. Let's go big. Let's get this done this session. Now, another issue confronting families and communities across Washington is behavioral health. And I've mentioned that we've launched an effort in 2018 to transform our behavioral health system. We had a century-old model of care that wasn't working, and since then we've been building new community-based systems that help people get specific type of care they need closer to their homes and loved ones. And we've made thousands of new beds available to patients across Washington for care that ranges from crisis stabilization to substance use disorder. While we're still building, and my budgets contain funding to keep every part of our plan on track, including the new 350-bed forensic hospital at Western, we've got work to do. But, much like our housing crisis, this is not enough, particularly when it comes to forensic services. We are seeing an unprecedented increase in demand for competency evaluation and restoration services, a 60% increase in court orders just since 2018, 145% increase in inpatient referrals since 2013. This is not sustainable. This state has been and will continue doing its part to shore up capacity. And we have added hundreds of forensic beds since the True Blood trial in 2015. And we plan on adding hundreds more. But even with all these investments, this unprecedented growth in court orders and referral is not manageable or sustainable. Nor is our criminal justice system really an effective way to connect people to the treatment they really need to restore their lives. So we should be prioritizing diversion and community-based treatment options rather than using the criminal justice system as an avenue to mental health care, particularly because competency services only treat people to get well enough to be prosecuted. Now, this has been a frustrating This has been a frustrating point of contention for families, lawyers, judges, patients, advocates, providers, and for me. We have to find a better way. Lawsuits and lawyers is not going to fix this problem. So I will be asking local leaders to join me in crafting a better plan, both for defendants' mental health and for public safety. Now, while we do these things, we're also continuing our efforts in education. And we know that meeting the social and emotional needs of our students is an extremely important effort. And I commend this legislature and you for making historic investments last year to increase funding for schools so that they can hire more nurses, counselors, psychologists, and social workers, which is always important, but particularly as we're coming through COVID. And my budget continues these additional investments. I'm also hopeful this year that we can increase funding for special education. I've proposed more than $120 million to better support school districts as they meet the needs of every student, no matter how complex their needs. All told, my budget proposal increases K-12 spending by $3 billion. We know the circumstances have been very difficult for students, educators, paraeducators, school bus drivers, and all the others who work in our schools. So I hope you can join me in a moment of recognition for these people who have been so instrumental in helping students navigate the challenges of COVID and beyond. Thank you to these educators. I'm appreciative of the work. On another positive note, one effort we have made tremendous progress on is climate. And when we see the tremendous damage that climate change is causing in our state, it's understandable to feel some despair at times. But I think we are also entitled to feel deep pride in what we have accomplished together. The tremendous pace of innovation, together with the policies we've adopted because of your leadership, ought to give us significant doses of hope when we need it. When I travel and meet with other government leaders from around the world, they know about the work we're doing in Washington. They know we're leading America on this noble effort. And we've passed several landmark policies that are transitioning us to clean transportation, to clean electricity, to clean buildings. Just last week, our clean fuel standard and our cap and invest programs went into effect. And we're doing this in a way that ensures overburdened communities will experience the economic and health benefits of this transition. Now, our focus shifts to implementation and investment. Now, when we do this, we need more capacity to permit clean energy projects in a timely manner. And we need to bolster our transmission infrastructure to reliably deliver clean energy throughout the state. We also need to expand our research and development capacity. And it was just fantastic to go over to Tri-Cities with Senators Wynn and Banky last month to talk about the potential for a new institute for Northwest Energy Futures at Washington State University. This institute will put the region to be a global leader and in the global forefront of clean tech innovation. Go Cougs, and I hope you can help on this. I am not above pandering to Sam Hunt, I will tell you that, I admit to that. Look, on the investment side, this is a really big deal too, obviously, now that this program is live. Our state's new Cap and Invest program will allow us this year to transform how we invest in transportation and our communities. Look, heat pumps for low-income families, charging stations across the state, hybrid electric ferries, free transit for youth, grants to clean up air pollution. The list goes on, again, because of the work that you have done. The CCA will provide an estimated $1.7 billion that will be used for projects to drive down emissions, create jobs, and give people cleaner air and make communities healthier. This act is also helping us invest in the strongest suite of salmon recovery actions in the state's history. We know salmon are iconic to our state, to all Washingtonians, and certainly to the tribe's culture and way of life. This will also fund a new voluntary riparian grant program that offers landowners assistance to protect and recover these habitats statewide. Now, here's a sad truth. Unfortunately, climate change will continue increasing temperatures of our waters and killing salmon for years to come, regardless of some of our best efforts. We need to minimize that, but we have to face this reality. So providing shade that helps cool rivers and streams is even more critical in the years to come. And I believe this, as legislators, when future generations look back at you and your efforts 40 to 50 years from now, I know they will be proud that you took action that gave their generation a chance. So let's do just that. Let's boldly continue our fight against climate change and salmon extinction this session. I know the list of things we intend to accomplish is long, but I've got a couple more things I'd like to touch on. The first is public safety. Now, that phrase, public safety, evokes different meanings and ideas amongst people. And I think we need to escape the trap that public safety is about any one thing: mental health, or gun safety, or drug treatment, or law enforcement. The clear fact is we need them all. One thing we know is that gun violence is a significant driver of increased crime. This isn't a surprise, considering that the gun lobby has worked for decades against common sense gun safety measures. Fortunately, in Washington state, voters and legislators have been willing to take on the gun lobby. We've enacted several measures to strengthen background checks and put limits on the kinds of weaponry used in mass shootings. This year, we need to continue that work in three ways. First, one of the most meaningful measures and effective measures that we can take is requiring that people have safety training, basic safety training before they purchase a gun. Look, we expect that people have we ought to expect that people have some basic training. We accept training in multiple parts of our lives. So we should expect that they will have basic training when they buy a gun. This has worked in other states, and it's time to put this to work in Washington. Second, we must increase accountability among manufacturers and dealers and give families and victims access to justice when those entities fail to do their duty. And third, the time has come for the legislature to ban the sale of military-style assault weapons. These weapons These weapons are designed for the sole purpose of destroying lives, the lives of school children, law enforcement officers, concert goers, nightclub patrons, and people gathered in houses of worship. We owe our children the assurance we're doing all we can to keep them safe. Let's pass all three bills and prove to them that the gun lobby doesn't make the rules in Washington state, we do. Now, of course, gun safety laws are not the only thing we need. We want to help local law enforcement agencies to be able to hire and train more officers. They need more officers on our streets and in our neighborhoods. Last summer, Senator John Lovick and I were joined by dozens of chiefs and sheriffs to propose a new regional training centers. And these new facilities will allow us to train hundreds of more recruits and help law enforcement agencies recruit people from within their diverse communities. And also, sometimes the right response isn't necessarily by a law enforcement officer. So I applaud the incredible work underway to implement our new 988 system. Unlike most states, this legislature had the foresight to see this as much more than just a crisis hotline. We're using this opportunity to create a true behavioral health crisis response system. And your continued support puts us on a path to ensure people facing a mental health, substance use, or suicidal crisis can be connected to mobile responders or culturally competent behavioral health providers. Thank you for making this work possible. I appreciate your leadership. Let's keep it up. Now, there's one other very important priority we have to address, and that's the rights of Washingtonians seeking reproductive care. We know the Dobbs decision last year on a national level upended decades of precedent that assured people across the country had at least some measure of constitutional protection for abortion care and contraception. That protection is gone for more than half the people in our nation. And the new Republican majority in Congress this weekend made further abortion restrictions one of their top priorities. So in Washington state, we are fighting to make sure that this right remains protected. We must protect patient data and privacy. We must protect access from the threat of healthcare consolidation and cost barriers. We must protect patients and providers from persecution by vigilantes and activist politicians in anti-choice states. And finally, and most importantly, we must pass a constitutional amendment that expressly establishes a fundamental right to reproductive freedom in the great state of Washington. Before I close, I want to make a bit of a personal comment to you all. I want to express my personal thanks to you and to your families for your service this session. You have each left your hearth and home to come here to serve your constituents and further the progress and success of our state. And when you do so, I know you will all strive and toil to enact the policies you believe in. And yet, you may never know many of the actual people you've really helped due to your work. You may never know the single mom you helped out of homelessness, but she'll be there. You may never know the teenager in a mental health crisis that you helped, but they'll be there. You may never know the person who was not a victim of gun violence because of your actions, but they'll be there. They'll all be there by the hundreds and thousands, taken care of because of your efforts. And at the end of this session, I am confident you will feel the deep satisfaction of those who know that they have made a difference You know, we have emerged recently through two great threats, one to our personal health and our family's health, and one to our body politic. Because of the combination of scientific genius and sound decision-making in our state, we are no longer dominated by a virus. And because we stood up to those who dared to dismantle democracy, it is a joy to say with assurance and confidence that democracy is today intact in Washington State. So now it is our blessed opportunity to fully exercise the power of democracy, not with half measures, empty gestures, or platitudes, but with the boldness and the ambition that is fitting to the unlimited capacity of the evergreen state. We have a special state. We have a special moment. Let's realize both. Let's get to work. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Inslee, so much for those words of inspiration and encouragement and direction. Will the committee come forward and escort Governor Inslee from the House chambers, again comprised of Representatives Stearns, Hutchins, and Senators Hasagawa and Fortunato? Will the committee come forward and escort the state elected officials from the House chamber, Representative Street, Lowe, and Senators Kaufman, Hawkins? Will the committee come forward and escort the Supreme Court justices from the House chamber, Representatives McClintock and Farivar, and Senators McEwen and Shoemake? Representative from the 34th District, Representative Fitzgibbon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the joint session now be dissolved.
It has been moved and seconded that the joint session now be dissolved. As many are in favor, say aye. As many are opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. It is always an honor to return to my house of origin, and it is an honor to turn this podium back to Speaker Jenkins.
Will the Sergeant-at-Arms of the House and the Sergeant-at-Arms of the Senate please come forward and escort President of the Senate, Denny Heck, and members of the Washington State Senate from the House chambers?